Welcome to another episode of Let's Talk E-commerce. I'm your host Anurag, and today we're gonna get real about AI in e-commerce. You've heard it all before. AI is transforming retail. AI is the future. Every vendor deck, every conference, every keynote, every LinkedIn post is about AI. Same story, different day. Here's the truth. I'm done with the hype. Tired of promises that sound incredible but deliver nothing to the bottom line. So today we're going to talk about something who's actually building AI solutions at scale across multiple markets. My guests today are two leaders from Fynd who are seeing the AI transformation from different but complementary angles. First, Ronak Modi, Chief Business Officer for Global Operations and Fynd. Ronak oversees AI deployment across markets like India, Middle East, and beyond. He's not just talking about AI in theory, he's building, testing it, and actually measuring ROI at scale. And Dharmendra Mehta, Managing Director for Fynd Middle East. Dharmendra works directly with brands here, tackling challenges like Arabic language support and local commerce needs. Ronak, welcome to the show. Excited to have you both with us.
Thank you.
And this is for the first time we are having two guests in the same podcast.
Thank you.
So before we start, for our audience, if you could quickly tell us more about yourself, what brought you guys to Fynd, and I would be very interesting to know how you came to this intersection of commerce and technology. So maybe Ronak, we can start with you.
Sure. Well, I come from a small city in India named Bhavnagar. It's in Gujarat. Did my schooling there. Then I did my graduation from engineering college in Ahmedabad. After that, I'd moved to Bombay. Started working with Disney for about a year and a half, and then joined Fynd when it was a very small startup, about 20 odd people.
Okay,
Joined as a first product manager.
amazing.
And been with them now for 10 years. So Fynd as a company's been around for 13 years. Multiple sort of pivots along the way. I think we've reinvented ourselves through multiple products across the last 13 odd years. Yeah.
Amazing. That's a beautiful journey, Ronak. Dharam, over to you.
I think my journey is slightly the other side. I've been working for about 30 years. Born and raised in Mumbai, studied international business. Then from campus, got recruited into a textile company. First 10 years did export sales for textiles. Then moved to retail, which was the booming sector then back then.
Yeah.
Was with Future Group for about 10 years doing retail store operations and then category management. And then the e-commerce boom came. So I moved to e-commerce. I was fortunate to have worked with Flipkart in their growing days. So headed fashion for them, was chief of staff for a short while. Headed the logistics business for a while, which gave me like an all-rounded exposure to, what e-commerce business is coming up. And then for the last 9-10 years, I've been in the region, largely with Vamda Capital, managing some of their portfolio companies like Mum's World. Then did a small stint with healthcare. And for about 4 years after that, once COVID hit and we had to shut down the health startup, moved back to brass tacks to retail. Was with a large retail group in the region called Lal's Group, managed e-commerce for them. And during that conversation got associated with Ronak, and one fine day we were just chatting about, I'm passionate about bringing brands to the region, and when I move away from my role at the retail group, I want to bring brands in the region. He said, why don't you think about technology brands? And that's how the conversation started. And about the last 1 year or so, I've been on the other side of the table now, trying to be a software salesman.
Being a customer now.
From a customer to
Ronak has a 100% hit rate on customer conversion. So.
Amazing. So before we deep dive into the topic, which is of course role of AI in e-commerce, we're gonna touch base, all the crucial components from how to adopt AI, from how to scale, and then how to expect ROI out of the entire initiative. But before we do that, let's quickly discuss the use cases of AI. As you know, a conversational AI is one of the biggest use case in the region and across the globe as well. We talk about chatbots, right, being one of the most easy to adapt use case, but people cannot think beyond chatbots and conversational AI in general. So what do you think? What is the use case of AI apart from conversational AI? Ronak, if you can shed some light here.
So I think we can discuss in terms of e-commerce and retail.
Absolutely.
Specifically, I think chatbot is where you start experimenting with AI,
Yeah.
right? And that's where most of the brands start because it's easy to implement. It's a low-hanging fruit. Uh, uh, Before you have like a sort of roadmap of what you really want to do with AI.
Sure.
In terms of AI itself, right? If you look at ChatGPT, the first model that came out uh, back in 2019, GPT-2,
Yeah.
there have been significant sort of jump in terms of the capability in 4 years, right? So it went from like a preschooler to a high school grade AI model. So the AI model itself is evolving. And chat was like the first surface that people could
Yeah.
experiment with. Now you have voice. So you can see, machines are capable of talking to humans in a voice language by itself, right? So chat is evolving into voice. Voice commerce is enabled through agents. And then similarly, you can start using these agents to do support. And it is evolving in a manner where the models themselves can start doing reasoning, right? Just like humans have this capability to reason, the models also now have capability to reason, right? So if you talk about e-commerce specifically for a, let's say, a D2C brand starting out, the obvious place to start is a chatbot with two use cases where you can do product discovery, right? Or where you can do assisted sales. If you are a sort of premium brand, you want that sort of customer experience, you can do assisted sales now with the models that are available. You can start leveraging your chatbots to do support, and then over time start doing multiple other things. Interestingly, the image models have also evolved, right? So what that means is a lot of your content work can also get automated.
Sure.
You have you give image to, let's say, ChatGPT today. It can tell you whether it's a collared T-shirt, whether it's a round neck T-shirt, what color is it, whether it's a half sleeve, full sleeve. So if you are then able to leverage tools that are able to extract all this metadata from an image and auto enrich content for you, your life cycle of listing a product online, whether it is on your own website or on other marketplaces, reduces very, very significantly, right? So I think those are very low hanging fruits that you can get started with, and then you can sort of advance from there.
Sure,
So on and
makes
so forth,
sense.
yeah.
I really like the fact that, AI is being heavily used in content generation. We'll touch base more about the content at scale during our discussion. But my question to you, since you have been working with a lot of brands and you come with that local expertise, right? A lot of brands, they want to adopt AI for sure, right? But there's still this gap wherein adoption of AI versus the actual ROI is still a far distant stream, right? So how do you plug in that gap, and where do you see this gap while you speak to a lot of brands in the region?
Yeah, no, I think great question. So most of the biggest challenge actually comes in terms of understanding, right? So I think it's the human element where, from a knowledge-based perspective, I think there's still lots to progress. If I take my own example, when I was at a retailer, my understanding was still very superficial compared to what it is evolved now, thanks to being at Fynd and Fynd being an AI native organization now today. A lot of our work happens through AI, right? So, and we'll probably touch about it in due course. But I think that entire understanding from an ecosystem perspective is still very shallow. It is for us as pioneers in the region to kind of educate brands as well of what works, what doesn't. Typically, what we see is most brands think of infrastructure and data to be common, and they see that as a challenge, right? So they start building infrastructure without understanding how data is going to flow.
Sure.
I think most of the times where we've succeeded is where we've been able to kind of get the brand to invest more on their data side while we build the infrastructure for them. So how does workflow automation happen? How do we kind of enable data from, so the thing that brands should work on is their data is their proprietary, their customer, how is the customer going through their entire life cycle, and the infrastructure comes from an outsourced partner like Fynd who can actually build that entire workflow for them. And then whether it's a chatbot, whether it's photo shoots using AI cataloging, or the PIM that's doing its magic of syndication of data across marketplaces at one time, the entire process then starts moving towards ROI rather than starting with ROI and then working backwards.
Makes sense.
I think today, because the way technology is also evolving on the go and it's getting adopted at the same time, I think putting ROI before the tech probably at times becomes like a question. But if you are able to kind of create a complete flow and say this is what the end goal is, most companies are struggling for either growth, profitability, or innovation. And most of the times, one of these KPIs comes at the cost of the other. So if you're doing innovation, you may tend to lose efficiency, growth, etc. This is the first time that automation is bringing in all three together at the same level playing field, right? And I think that's the way if you approach it, and brands find it very meaningful to kind of adopt technology and then start working towards them.
Very, very interesting insight, Dharam. That brings me to another question. So all of them, they're in that FOMO feeling, right? They just want to adopt something or the other, which is AI driven or AI powered, right? But if you have to consult a brand and if you have to give them a starting point, what that starting point would look like, and what are the low hanging fruits that a brand can adopt and quickly get started?
Yeah, there is always the glamorous side of technology, which is the chatbots, which can show quick, easy wins, etc. But there is always the hard part of the business, which is your own business and where your current gaps are. So when you start looking at your own data layers, you realize, you have broken PDB pages.
Absolutely.
Speaking specifically from an e-commerce perspective, right?
Yeah.
Your experiences on your UI UX are broken. Your NPS data is not read through properly. So I think these are key starting points where you can actually utilize autonomous agentic tools and start making more meaningful insights out of it, right? The moment you start implementing some of these, we've seen with brands that we work with, a good 18 to 20% jump in key KPIs, conversion, in order values, in NPS improvement. So the moment you start implementing it at the back end and you start building your layers on top of it, I think that's a good starting point. The easy to apply technology, I think, can still wait for some time. And our suggestion always is to work backwards, get the back end sorted, get all your processes in place, start showing impact. And then you have the ability to kind of then say, I'm going to choose to invest in a chat agent, which is like agentic, can do things more than just product discovery. It can do things like add to cart. It can, track your order for you, etc. I think that becomes then kind of a secondary state to go to.
Sure.
Maybe if I can probably add to
please.
this, right? I think so. So there are two parts to this, right? One is people itself. I think a very underlooked aspect is people not upgrading themselves, right? So if you
Is the knowledge part of the promoters?
Knowledge, also utilizing AI yourself, right? So I think what we are seeing is that the boardroom has a mandate that we need to implement AI.
Exactly.
But fundamentally, you don't give your organization and your employees access to, let's say, a ChatGPT or a Gemini, right? So if you don't allow your people to upskill, how do you expect your organization to upskill, right? I think the first fundamental step is people being AI native. Only if your people are AI native, your organization can become AI native, right? Because that's how you start thinking. That's a different way of how you think. So fundamentally, I think first that needs to sort of happen within any company, within any organization. Then the second is data, right? So having your data clean, in the right place, having your pipelines built is fundamental to build any AI logic on top, right? So you can build a chatbot, but if you don't have underlying access to that data in the right format, the chatbot is not going to be able to do anything, right? Because the model is not going to be able to read that data properly. So I think most underlooked aspect is I would say people not being AI native. So we go into a lot of companies and they have this mandate to do digital transformation and implement AI. But they can't write simple prompts to kind of do their work, right? So now if you're looking at a new world where work is happening based on some output that the model is giving, and then you are implementing that work, it's important that you start sort of reshaping the way your company thinks, your people think.
Yeah. I really appreciate the fact that I have also seen while talking to a lot of customers that AI adoption is more of a boardroom decision, but then the CFO is like, where's the ROI?
Yeah.
And then that's when things start falling apart because people they're not ready. And as you rightly mentioned, Dharam, you have to get your basics right. If your checkout journey is broken, if your UI UX is broken, there's no point
It will only amplify.
adopting AI, right? It will amplify.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you mentioned, Ronak, AI is basically dependent on the data. So, is it safe to assume that the data is the food for the AI?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what is that minimal viable infrastructure that is required by an e-commerce brand
Mm.
to even start thinking about adopting AI? As you mentioned, if there's no data, there's no point, having AI into the entire ecosystem.
Yeah.
So, what is that minimal viable infrastructure required from a data perspective?
I think so. There are multiple answers to this depending on the size of the brand, right? So if you are a small D2C brand starting to sell online, you probably only have one platform where you've built your e-commerce website. So your data sources are typically your catalog, your inventory, your orders, which are residing within the same platform. So having clean data there, I think that's the beginning, right? So for any brand selling online, the first step is having the
clean
product
data in
data,
place.
which is clean, right? Which you can start publishing everywhere. As you grow, and let's say this B2C brand now also goes offline, you will have more complexity in your systems, right? So you will add a ERP, you will add a POS, you will add a bunch of other tools, which have their own sort of data residing in their own systems. And as an organization, ensuring all the systems talk to each other is important. So maybe have like a data lake where you have a complete visibility of your product data, your inventory data, your customer data, your order data, order status updates. If you work with courier partners, then sort of delivery data and all of those things. If you are able to get that data information in one place, or at least if you're able to connect to those informations in real time, then you can build a AI layer on top, right? Which can, for example, MCP, you can build a MCP layer through which you can connect to these data sources, but the data sources need to be clean so that the MCP layer understands that the data, what the data means, right? So that it knows where to query at what point in time.
Yeah. Do you think brands are ready? They have this data pipeline available as of today based on your experience talking to different retailers in this region?
I think some very large enterprises, large brands do have some amount of data pipelines ready, but the data sources are still fragmented. I'll give you an example, right? If you walk into probably like 10 stores in a Dubai mall, right? And you want a product, they don't have your size. It's very likely that they are not going to take the effort to tell you, I have it somewhere else. Right? Why is that the case? Right? Is it the case because they don't have the data? They have the data, right? But it's probably not real time. Or probably the store staff does not have the right.
Scattered.
It's scattered in different places, or the store staff does not have access to that data. Right? So I think those things in the boardroom, in let's say in the company, at the HO, are probably overlooked because those are more operational aspects. But your customer experience, significantly sort of downgrades because of such experiences, right? So
Interesting. Dharam, you are in this region from almost a decade now, right? You speak to a lot of brands in the region and you understand their psyche. There is this discussion which is always happening of build versus buy, right? A lot of people want to build their own proprietary AI solutions, while a lot of brands they adopt ready-made, off-the-shelf, available AI solutions out there. What is your take on build versus buy model, and what do you recommend to all these brands out there, whether they should consider building their own proprietary solutions or they should vouch on the existing solutions which are already available out there in the market?
Yeah, no, I think great question, and this is a dilemma for everybody. Right?
Absolutely.
It's
a big question that we must address.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the way to approach it is, what are you as a core, as an organization? If you see yourself as a technology company, only then because to build technology, you need product thinking. You need to think about the user journey, not just from a customer standpoint, but also from internally, from your partners, from how do you build that entire ecosystem. Most retailers, at least in the region, don't see themselves as technology companies. Technology is a function which is supposed to source like any other any other function. It is just supposed to go and buy technology from different places.
Sure.
Versus actually productizing that thinking it's coming to some large brands like Ronak said, but it's still very, very nascent. In that scenario, what you have to do is rely on the ecosystem of what are the best technologies available, build on them, and then eventually when it comes, and for a large part of things where a competitor can easily copy you over the next 60 days, is no reason for you to build it, because then it's just going to, you're just going to lose your leverage. So there's a lot of opportunity to build, to utilize what's currently available in the market, start building your workflows, systems, processes, because you have a lot of legacy systems that are not talking to each other. The starting point could be utilizing existing technology from the market to kind of plug those gaps, make that work. When it then finally boils down to real use cases of your customer journey, your customer getting impacted, I think there could be some moats that you want to build yourself. So there could be like a large layer of loyalty engine that you want to build for yourself, because that has direct impact on retention of customers and your improvement of your customer lifecycle value. I think there you would invest. But if your key goals are, growth from a conversion, order value increase perspective, then I think it's always recommended to kind of look for existing technology and see how you can, plug that into your system. Building technology by itself needs a very different hat to wear. I don't see that with a lot of retailers in the region. And I think that's where the gap really arises. And they try to make the most of the current tools they have. But if you have to build your own tech stack, I think it needs a very, very different way to look at it. And you're right, when it goes back to the CFO, it becomes an ROI conversation. And a lot of times the technology teams also lose out on that conversation because they are not able to show the true value of what the productized version of the business would look like.
Sure. So just to, summarize for the audience. So basically, whenever you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You want to quickly get started, faster time to market.
Yes.
That is where you actually buy the solution. And whenever you have a customized requirement based on maybe your something at brand level or at a group level, something like loyalty program or something which has specifically to do with the brand, that is where you actually build the entire solution, which is highly customized to your
and
needs.
there too, if it is replicatable by anybody else, you shouldn't take that effort of building something which is then going to get, copied by a competitor over the next 3 months, and then you're going to lose that edge.
So
it has to be like a very thought through investment that you make, because it means long-term direct impact on what your customers are interacting with the brand. And I think that is where there's a large focus. But otherwise, there is so many LLMs available. The challenge really is most people don't understand that the first level of LLM is easy, but when you go into repetitive tasks, it starts breaking, it starts hallucinating. And that is where
that's the real challenge.
That's the real challenge, which is where you need to work with experts who understand the language. Like Ronak touched upon it, saying there are people who understand how LLMs work, how they work over a period of time. And it's best for those people to work with you. And it's very ambitious for brands to come and say that, I want to do this. This is my charter to do, implement AI. But to understand what it does in the third iteration, fourth iteration, I think that's where the real learning comes, and you're able to understand how scalable any solution could be. So leave that to the experts. Focus on your core of the business. Focus on retail, on selling. I think if you're able to utilize outside of catalog and chat agents, if you're able to utilize pricing, sensitivity, if you're able to bring in merchandising tools which give you focus on how your sell-throughs could improve, what were your areas where you lost revenue because of XYZ, how can you price products better. When you start utilizing these into your core function, I think that is where the real value of AI would come.
Absolutely.
So building it is of course glamorous, but not for everyone.
Yeah. And in fact, buying something will also help you optimize your TCO, right? Your 3 or 5 year TCO is definitely going to get optimized. So very rightly said.
Very good point. I think TCO is a metric that most people oversee. They look at it from a direct ROI comparison perspective. But when you look at TCO, I think that's where the true value of platform thinking versus vertical thinking comes in. And I think that is really the use case that products, brands like Fynd solve, right? So
Sure. Let's talk about content at scale. A lot of brands are adopting AI tools. They're leveraging AI tools to generate product descriptions on PDP pages, language translations, for example, even image generation, video generation is being done through these AI tools. So, Ronak, what do you think? What is the role of AI going forward? Since a lot of brands have started adopting and automating the entire content generation perspective, right? So, where it is heading and what do you think is the future?
Yeah, I think large teams will shrink, right? So if you today look at a retailer, if you look at a large e-commerce brand, they have pretty large content teams, right?
Yeah.
Like for each functions, right? So you have a catalog person, maybe one or two,
Cataloging,
right? You have your
merchandising, content
merchandising, you have
writing,
content
graphic
writers,
designing. I
graphic
mean, there are
designers,
n number of people out
photo
there.
shoots, right?
Yeah.
So in fact, I think we are working with one of the leading retailers in UAE where uh, the time to list the products on each channel is roughly about 2.5 3 months, right? So what that means is they have to selectively prioritize where do they list first based on the sales. But in an ideal world, you are losing out on a sale because you are not listing, right? So
Yeah.
your sales is a derivative of when you listed in the first place. So
Absolutely.
had you listed on another platform at the same time,
Yeah.
for all you know, that platform also would have given you more sales, right? And then when we were chatting with them, we really understood where the bottlenecks are, right? So uh, uh, so for this retailer, what we realized is that they do product design. When I say product design, garment design. So from design to production takes them about 7 months.
Okay.
Right. From once the production of the garments is done, it comes to the warehouse where they then send samples to a photo shoot agency who would then do photo shoots, send across folders to their content team. The content team will then sit and write all the content. Right.
Okay.
Once the content is written, once you have the photo shoots, then they will individually go and list on multiple channels. So they have their own website, they sell on Noon, Amazon, a bunch of other platforms. Each platform takes them about 10 days, right? Because their size of catalog is huge. Photo shoot also takes time, right? So they would send a batch, then they would send another batch.
Yeah.
So they will receive a batch and then they upload it. So they spend close to about month and a half just to do photo shoots, and then 10 days per marketplace or per channel to list, right? So roughly about 2.5 months.
Yeah.
Now we have this capability where we are able to generate photo shoots with AI, right? There's no need for you to send it to a studio, right?
Yeah.
At least for a lot of categories, you probably don't need to send it to the studio, because AI is now able to generate very hyper realistic product
Lifestyle
photo shoots,
images
lifestyle
as well.
images, as well as e-commerce images, right?
as well as videos as well, right?
Yeah, videos, of course.
So what we did with this particular retailer is we said, hey, in the design lifecycle itself, you know what is the garment that is getting made, right? There's also a sampling stage before you do final production. There's a sample that comes to you where you decide that this sample is okay to go for production. Why don't you do a photo shoot then? Right? And you don't have to do a photo shoot. You probably just have to take a tabletop image, or you put it on a mannequin, put it in a model, and just tell the model what kind of an output that you need. So you are now actually e-commerce ready before even your production is ready, right? So now if you have that product image, and if AI is able to extract all the content, it can write product name, description, attributes, and also generate a photo shoot, and also convert it automatically to a Noon format or Amazon format. You are actually much ahead of your life cycle. So you are entering an era where you can sell before you make.
Yeah.
Right. So imagine the power of this, right? It's like a Sheen model where I've decided, hey, I have these many styles that I've approved. Probably I don't need to do production of 5,000 units. I can do production for 200 units. Just list it online. So when I list it online, and it's because the samples are approved, the first lot will probably come to me in a week. So if I start getting orders, I can start fulfilling it within a week, right? So now I don't have to wait like 4 months.
Absolutely.
That's really content at scale. And you can use the same concept to do garment design. Like what's really stopping you from doing garment design? Today, the way designs are created is that you have a design team that essentially takes inspiration from multiple sources. Then they create a mood board. Then they create sort of first cut designs, and then you do second cut and third cut, right? AI can really accelerate all of that, right? So you can do mood board research. You can just go and prompt and generate a mood board, and you can do explosions, right? Rather than you having manually doing 4 or 5 mood boards, you can now do 50 mood boards within 5 minutes, as opposed to doing 50 mood boards in a month. Similarly, you can do one design a day. Now you can start doing 50 designs a day, right? That's the power of generative AI. So if you start thinking your from concept to shelf used to what used to take you 8 months can now be like 30 days, 40 days, and you can start selling before you start making, right?
Yeah.
So you can really do fast fashion if you leverage AI correctly.
Yeah, that's an amazing use case, start selling before you even, you
Yeah.
have the products ready. But there's a downside as well. I was reading an article which says the articles which are written on the web have now outnumbered the articles which are written by human.
Yeah.
So, do you think this content duplication and the authenticity of the entire content which is available online, specifically on e-commerce stores, can impact SEO performance, for example, or marketing campaigns in general?
Well, it does. I think we've had a lot of instances where AI generated content haven't ranked well enough as compared to human written content. But I think the reality is also changing, right? We are entering into a agentic AI world where agents will do work on your behalf, right? So probably the next few years, 4 years, 5 years, until the models really become really agentic, you will still go online and search for a product, right? But now imagine a world, and it's already happening now, where people are actually going on ChatGPT and searching for products that they want to buy. Right now, imagine a world where you do this with voice, right? You have an agent, you just say, hey, I'm looking for these products, 5 products, you get those 5 products. It's the agent then doing that research for you. So you have to start really thinking about how do you build for that agentic world? How do you optimize along with SEO? How do you optimize for generative SEO? Right? How do you rank on ChatGPT? How do you rank on Gemini? Because the world is shifting searches towards these platforms.
Sure, makes sense. Let's have some regional context now from a Middle East perspective, or to be much more specific, GCC perspective. The people outside UAE prefer Arabic language as their first natural language, of course, right? And then they use all the searches and product discoveries. They're all happening on Arabic
Yeah.
first, right? And then a lot of people, they use Arabic to prompt different LLM models as well. So, what do you think, from a regional context? Arabic natural language processing is at par with what people are doing in, let's say, English NLP, for example, or still there is a gap and a lot of ground has to be covered? Anybody can answer this one.
I think it is probably 80% there, right? But going from 80% to 100% is not going to take decades or years, right? It'll probably happen within a year or so. Again, I'll reference back to my GP2 example, right? The first GP2 model came out in 2020. It was barely able to write a couple of sentences, actually, right? 2020 to 2025, now you can actually generate videos, right? You can create ads using AI. So AI has come that far. I think it's only a matter of how much compute you are, spending on to solve that particular problem, and it will essentially get there. If you look at English as a language, if you look at Spanish as a language, French as a language, those are fairly solved for. I think Arabic, in my opinion, will probably get there very, very soon. In our experience, at least text content is right up there. I think voice will probably take some more time, but I don't think it will take probably more than 1 or 2 years.
Okay.
I have a point of view on that,
yeah,
actually.
Please,
so because I think specifically for Arabic, because it's a very contextual language,
yeah,
everything has context. So the meaning of words spoken and written would change depending on the context of the person speaking. But I think that's where transliteration is really coming in. In our experience, we worked with a toys retailer, and we were helping them build their Arabic catalog. And we found that the transliteration was almost 95, 96% accurate. It was only in certain cases where there was, conversations like hand-eye dexterity is improved by using this toy. I think that's where the transliteration failed because there's no equivalent word that it could find in Arabic.
Arabic, yeah.
But otherwise, I think most of the others were like really solid and was able to, do the transliteration was very, very good. So I think there are tools that have reached that stage today. And like Ronak said, it's only a matter of time when Arabic native becomes, of course, the number one go-to space for anybody who's building in that space. But even from a transliteration perspective, I think there's enough and more happening to kind of take that to the next level.
Yeah. And does that covers the different dialects are there in Arabic?
It does. So it understands contextually this is an Omani speaking versus a Saudi.
Which is a great news.
So that is happening as we speak. But I think, and we've seen good success with some of the work that we've done on this. So
amazing. Let's talk more about Middle East or GCC versus, let's say, Western market. How are things moving in GCC according to you, based on your experience working on ground, versus Western world, let's say, adoption in North America and Canada and Europe?
I think purely in terms of AI investments, I think the Western world is far ahead of anybody else, right? All the innovation in the AI models is happening there. So in some sense, they are exporting that technology everywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
I don't think we would probably be able to compare with those. But it's making life easier, let's say, if I have to say, for e-commerce, right? We've come at a stage where earlier, a brand had to rely on a developer to build their website, right? Now it's come at a stage where I can just write a 3-line prompt and I can have a fully functional website ready, so shoppable website ready, right? So what started to happen is that we will start seeing a lot more entrepreneurs come and start sort of selling, because that barrier has gone away, right? So this barrier of requiring a technology expert is very, very quickly diminishing. So the real value, even for technology companies like us, is really lying in providing out of the box value to these customers of ours. And how do we get them to go live faster? How do we get them to realize value faster? How do we get them to reduce their TCO over a period of time? So even for platforms, I think the real value will lie in how quickly you innovate using what is available out there.
Sure. And from a regional context, Ronak, do you think is the region ready to have massive cloud infrastructure that can deploy AIs? And since data residency is a big discussion happening, every country has their own data protection laws. So do you think is the region ready, specifically if we touch upon GCC as a market? Within GCC also you have different laws of data residency. In UAE, different PDPL laws in KSA, for example.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, as an infrastructure, do you think these countries are ready?
Yeah, I think so. I think both UAE and KSA are actually at the forefront of making those investments, right? So when OpenAPI is committing to investing $100 billion,
Yes.
it's the sovereign funds here actually investing that money.
Yeah.
I think UAE was the first country to offer ChatGPT to all the residents, right?
Yeah.
And then that model got replicated now elsewhere in sort of emerging countries. So I think GCC has always been at the forefront in terms of investing in innovation. Right, so it is like, it may not likely innovate in terms of IP, but investing in sort of innovation and being at the forefront of technology, I think GCC has always been quite ahead, even compared to a lot of other markets.
Okay, Dharm, you have been a resident of UAE from quite some time, more than 10 years now, right?
Almost, yeah.
Okay, so are you a Noon user or a Talabat user?
Both.
Or you have switched to this Chinese new player?
I think my wife shops on all the Chinese websites. I still stick to Noon. Noon Minutes has, it's still getting there, but I think if you've been to India recently, you've seen what the quick commerce revolution in India has done. I think we're still to catch up here. I think Noon still takes us 25-30 minutes from Noon Minutes perspective. Whereas in India, I get it in 8 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
I
wow.
got it in 3 minutes. So there's a Blinkit dark store that is just opened right next to my house.
Okay.
So if I order it, I get it in 3 minutes.
It's like speed of thought, no? It's speed of thought. Even before you could go and get it yourself.
Which is crazy. But which of these brands have actually adopted AI pretty well, and which one is your personal favorite?
No, I think it's unfair to compare them because each one of them has their own modes. I think the way Noon has localized it and the way they use AI to kind of predict where the demand is going to come from the dark stores perspective.
Sure.
I think that they've done very well. I think from a speed of delivery perspective, they're kind of utilizing a lot of these. So I think they're doing well. I think same goes for Talabat. I think there's a lot, especially after the acquisition of the other grocery company that they did. I think it's kind of accelerated. So they are showing signs of moving into understanding how dark kitchens will perform in certain areas, and then kind of replenishing that inventory, etc., and then giving customers that wow experience of I'm able to buy at midnight the latest PlayStation and it comes to my house in 15 minutes. I think all of that is coming through. I am seeing the larger international players like Amazon, etc., lagging behind, which is a good thing for the local markets, because
Absolutely.
when you bring global thinking but you don't localize, I think that's like a lesson. So I think the localization efforts at both Noon, Talabat, etc., are really, really good. I think my favorite example always of a technology company is Zomato, because when I came here, Zomato had just launched into the region, and every country in the GCC thought that Zomato was their own startup because it was so heavily localized.
Yeah.
The Lebanese came and said, "Oh, it's a Lebanese startup."
Yes.
The UAE people said it's an Emirati startup, but it was essentially that, right? So I think when you localize your platform to that extent that it starts belonging to your people, I think that's where it is, and I think there Noon probably has an edge over the others for now.
Okay. What about you, Ronak? What do you think is one of a classic example of AI implementation that has done well in this region?
I haven't spent a lot of time here, so I think a bit difficult to answer that way. Mostly I use Kareem for my
For
my
your
rides
cab
and for my
rides.
food. Yeah, if I have to order, I've used Noon a couple of times. So this one time I remember I had to order an iPhone. It came in 15 minutes. So yeah, I don't think I've spent like a lot of time here.
Okay. So Dharam, back to you. Which AI use case or implementation do you think will be transformative or disruptive in the Middle East market
Specifically from a retail perspective?
from a retail e-commerce perspective?
I think the entire unification of customer profile and inventory, that entire unified experience is going to be the game changer, right?
Yeah.
Because we all know that it's a high penetration of mobile phones.
Absolutely.
95% population already shops online at least. But unifying that experience from a store to multi-channel. So if you have the same experience shopping on a marketplace or in your store or on your website, and then getting that same experience across, being able to burn points, all of that is going to be a game changer, because the retail is here to stay. I think largely 90 or maybe 85% of revenues will still come from retail stores, because it's a lifestyle choice that people make to go to stores or spend time in malls, etc. That will continue to remain. Malls will become more entertainment, less shopping. But from a user journey perspective, customers will transact both online, offline seamlessly. And I think that's going to be a major difference, right? And how brands that quickly are able to adopt this are able to, like Ronak spoke about, go to market life cycle for a product, right? If the faster you can take products live, the smarter you become about when to discount, to whom to give the discount, and how you're going to run that business. I think that entire unification is going to be a game changer.
Sure. I think the most underrated but highly leveraged use case of AI is in supply demand projections. As you mentioned, these local brands are forecasting pretty well, taking data driven decisions. So that's another thing I believe that's gonna explode in the region.
Oh yes,
sure.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think that's where the real needle will move.
Absolutely.
Because you are today have a lot of inefficiencies in your business, which you can't control because you don't have this visibility of data. But the moment you start bringing that visibility and start building accountabilities within the organization, we are seeing that happen with a few brands that we are working with. I think that entire shift of utilizing tools that will give you real time access to reworking your inventory, reworking your pricing. I think that's really going to be a game.
Sure. Ronak, you spoke about creating storefronts in 3 prompts. It looks easy at the forefront, but when you really you deep dive and you understand how the entire architecture is to be built. It's not just storefronts, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of other things that needs to be connected together, and you have to seamlessly connect all these dots.
Yeah.
So do you think in near future we can probably see something like an enterprise level storefront being created through these AI tools?
Yeah. I think so. We are seeing some parts of it being automated already, right? So, for example, on our Fynd platform today, you can go and start writing various components by natural language only, right? Yes, it may not give you a native integration with, let's say, a third party, because the model today does not have that context of the third party and it doesn't understand how to integrate with it. But at least within the platform, a lot of the work that you previously required an engineer for can be automated, right? So start thinking day-to-day ops, right? So I think when you integrate with a ERP system, you'll probably do that integration once and then you just maintain it over a period of time. But catalog ops is a day-to-day activity, right? Site operations is a day-to-day activity. Imagine I want to run a flash sale tonight at 12, and I need to go live, right? And how do I do it, right? I'll have to go to a developer. So if we start thinking efficiency in day-to-day operations, I think naturally you can start building towards a completely AI native commerce solution, and that's the beginning, right? So for this to really work, I think the platforms also need to evolve, right? The platforms need to let the other platforms talk to them through MCP or through some other means and modes. As platforms evolve, I think over the next 1.5 year, you'll start seeing those agentic capabilities coming into the platform. Just like how we enable brands to create storefront components using AI. I don't know if you heard about Lovable.
Yes.
But Lovable recently introduced a partnership with Shopify where you could create a storefront on Lovable using prompts and then you can publish it on Shopify, right? So that's a very good example of how two platforms integrate with each other using AI, right? Now imagine you don't need to learn how to write a Shopify liquid code.
Absolutely.
You can just create a storefront based on how you want it and then go and publish it on Shopify, right? So I think that's where the world is going, and you will start seeing more and more of those companies taking this initiative.
Yeah, I completely agree. We also as a team are moving away from vibe coding to a spec driven development where, you focus heavily on the documentation and AI will do the rest of the job. So yeah, it is something which is pretty much closer to the future. One last question, Ronak. What are you building at Fynd? And what is Fynd's vision when it comes to AI in e-commerce? And I would like both of you to share some insights on what is happening in Fynd.
I think so. We are building the operating system for commerce, right? What that means is all the components that you need to run your business, whether it is online or offline, is available on Fynd. So our stance is that we want to be unified, but we also want to be modular. The reason for that is that all the retailers and all the brands have probably made a lot of investments in a lot of platforms already. So it's impractical for them to move everything onto one platform. Given a choice, we are yet to come across a retailer who would not want a single platform that could manage all of it. But I think so far the problem has been that you've not had that platform that could serve your use cases, right? And we are not saying we are the best or we serve all use cases, but at least the use cases that we solve really well. So we want to continue building a truly unified commerce platform that integrates your online and offline, allows you to do multiple sort of channel integrations at the same time, and allows you to build on top of our platform, right? And not restrict you to our platform ourselves. Our vision is to become a agentic commerce platform, right? What that means is that actions that you do on the platform should be more natural language focused as compared to more developer heavy, right? And these are like sort of your day-to-day operations that you probably need. Like imagine going to our platform and being able to spin up a chatbot just by writing a few lines, right? And say, hey, you are an agent that will manage customer support for me. These are some guardrails, and just go live, right? So I think AI is moving in that direction. And I think it's important for platforms and partners of these platforms to start sort of leveraging those capabilities and start building towards those capabilities.
Sure. Closing notes from you, Dharam.
I'll just add to what Ronak was saying, right? So the way we are looking at it is the opportunity is for AI to shift the paradigm of your business, not just make incremental shifts. So we are here to help you really change. Like the example of fashion, when go to market for a product took 12 to 18 months, today can be done in 3 to 4 months, depending on the product category you're in. I think that's really changing the paradigm of industries, right? So, and this is only one use case. Retail is one, but each of these principles can also be applied to healthcare, to education, to supply chain. So the principles remain the same, but when you apply them, the opportunities then to put them across various, industries. And I think that's the big opportunity that we are looking at, and we're saying how can we collaborate better. So one of the reasons for us to be in the Middle East is because, like Ronak said, the governments here through their sovereign funds are actually investing in building AI native countries, right, and citizens. So, and I think that's where we see ourselves also playing a large part and kind of being part of this entire growth journey. So far, I think the world has always looked to the West for inspiration for how to, create data models and how do they kind of scale and how should they be governed. But I think there is this opportunity to build it in the Middle East, and that's like an interesting opportunity for us. So particularly from Fynd coming into the Middle East, I think that's like a focus area for us. Amazing. So we'd love to kind of take that route over the next 3 to 5 years.
Amazing. I just love what you guys are doing at Fynd. And as a proud partner, I'm really excited for this journey ahead and really looking forward. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today. It was a pleasure having you, and it was a very insightful discussion.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us, Anurag. Always so good to meet you. I think we take off all your positivity and all your good vibes. So look forward to working with you closely as we go forward.
Pleasure is
and all the very best for your podcast.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank
you. To everyone listening, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Let's Talk E-Commerce YouTube channel. We have got more conversations like this coming. Founders, operators, people who are actually building e-commerce in the region. Until next time, keep innovating, keep learning, and let's build the future of e-commerce together.